Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the S&T Football Podcast. This is your man, Say, and I'm here today to talk about a special episode, a special category of our college football fandom, more of my college football fandom because it's a personal thing I've done since last year. We call this new segment the Playoff Eliminator. So how the Playoff Eliminator works, for all of you fans who maybe have heard of similar things that ESPN has done or other people have done on different socials or whatnot concerning the playoff. Basically, how the playoff eliminator works is that as the season goes on, basically every week we will add teams to this list that basically have eliminated themselves from the playoff race. So either you could be on this list because you've lost too many games, because you lost a really bad game or maybe to a really bad team. And we basically just judge how the playoff has worked since the 4-12 team playoff has been around and how they evaluate teams. And if you either have reached too many losses or you have a loss on your record that's so bad that realistically, when we get to the end of the year, that you will not be in the playoff conversation, that's basically how you end up on this list. So here's the list. So here is our results for our playoff eliminator after week 1. So we already have a lot of action, which is very surprising because last year we did not have a lot of action in the playoff eliminator after week 1. You know, usually one game in, you're not going to have too many teams that have eliminated themselves yet. We don't this year either, but there's definitely a couple names on there that you might be surprised to hear already after week 1. So starting off with Delaware. Now, Delaware doesn't really count because they are a new FBS team this year. They just moved up from FCS. So whenever a team moves up, they are not eligible for the bowl party in their first year. They are not eligible for a bowl game. So Delaware is already automatically eliminated off rip, but they don't really count. So Delaware's first. Sam Houston. Sam Houston is our first real team eliminated. And as you can see, when you have a big red X next to your name, that means you are done. You are finito, finished. Your season, as far as the playoff is considered, is over. If you are still within bubbles, that means you still have a chance. That means you have earned yourself on this list in a bad way, but you have not yet cemented your L. You have not yet lost all hope. So that's the difference here between the red X's and the bubbles. Red X, you're done. Bubble, you still have a shot. Sam Houston is done. Why? Well, Sam Houston has already played 2 games, unfortunately. Sam Houston played week 0 against Western Kentucky, and they lost on the road. So that's 1 loss to a fellow Group of 5 team. And then in week 1, just this past Saturday, they lost to UNLV at home. So even though UNLV is a good Group of 5 team, that is 2 Group of 5 teams they have lost to back-to-back. And when it comes to the end of the season, so this is how I judge it, basically like, okay, so from this point on, if you won the rest of your games, would you make the playoff? So let's see. Sam Houston's 0-2 now. If they won the rest of their games and went 10-2, would they make the playoff? No. You have 2 losses to 2 Group of 5 teams. There will definitely be another Group of 5 team at the end of the year that either has no losses or 1 loss, and they'll have a better strength of record. So Sam Houston's done. That's why they have a big red X, and they are officially our first eliminated team from the playoff this year. Give it up for Sam Houston. Give it up for the Sam Houston Bearcats. They were also one of the first eliminated last year, so no surprises there. Team number 2. Team number 2 would be the Akron Zips. Akron had the pleasure of losing this past weekend to Wyoming, 10-0. So, lost to a Group of 5 team at home, got shut out. You're probably done, but they're in a bubble for now. San Jose State also lost. They're on that list. Lost to a Group of 5 team. Central Michigan at home. So, they're probably done, but they're in a bubble. And just going down the list, we got Charlotte. We got Northwestern. Northwestern got their tails handed to them by Tulane. Almost got shut out, like 30-3. So and that's a group of 5 team. Even though Tulane's a good team, group of 5, you get beat like that as a power 4, you're on the list. Ball State, UMass, Florida Atlantic, Middle Tennessee, Big Red X. Why? Middle Tennessee got dominated by an FCS team at home. Austin Peay. A better FCS team, but not even in the FBS. And Middle Tennessee State lost to them by 20 points at home. They are eliminated. Done for. The second team that's done for. Also on the list, you have UTEP, Louisiana, Eastern Michigan, and Georgia Southern. So, of all these teams, all of them had bad losses. They either lost to a fellow group of 5 team, they got blown out by a fellow group of 5 team, they lost to an FCS team. That's why they were on this list. And then 2 names that you may have not expected to be on this list this early, and I was also very surprised to see them here. The Army Black Knights. Army, Big Red X, already 1 week in. And you're like, what? Yes, I know, the same Army that went like 9-3 last season, 10-2, won their conference, almost made the playoff. Yes, them. Why? Because they lost to Tarleton State. Week 1 at home. Yes, I know, you've never heard of Tarleton State. I've seen it maybe a couple times. They are not an FBS team. They are not. They're a good FCS team, not FBS. Army lost to them, double overtime at home. They're done. You can't come back from that. Army could win the rest of their games. They go 11-1. They could even win their conference. Cool. You can't get over this loss. You lost to an FCS team at home. Someone else down the line will win an argument over you because of that. So, unfortunately, our armed forces, our proud armed forces, have eliminated themselves already, and it's sad to see. And then, last but not least, Boise State. Yes, the same Boise State that made the playoff just 1 year ago. Yes, them. Now, they don't have a Big Red X yet. There's still some chance, but you got blown out by South Florida. Week 1. South Florida, unfortunately, is a group of 5 teams. Central Florida is a Power 4 team. So if they would lost to Central Florida, they might not be on the list, but it was South Florida. South Florida is in a group of 5. Unfortunately, Boise State's on this list now. 1 week in, I know. They only lost 1 game all last season until the playoff. I know. Different season, different year. 1 game in, they get blown out by South Florida. So it's going to be a long season for them. And unfortunately, they're already on the list. These are 2 teams that I thought were going to be group of 5 contenders again for that group of 5 playoff spot. But seeing them both on the list already, it's that sucks. It's kind of discouraging, but that just means it's going to be an exciting year, man. It's going to be a different year for somebody, a different team, and somebody's going to emerge in the end. But yeah, Boise State already on the list. Not done yet, but 1 more loss, and yeah, the Big Red X for Boise State most likely. So, and that's our playoff eliminator for week 1. So I'm going to try to keep track of this throughout the season. We're going to update this. This list is going to get very long, as it did last season, but as we go week to week, we're going to keep adding names until we get to the last 20, 15 teams in the end. So stick with me here, and we're going to have some fun. We're going to start off with the group of 5 teams. Mostly it's going to be group of 5 at first. And as the season progresses, you're going to start seeing some big names up there. So, week 1 playoff eliminator. Let me know what you think. And can't wait to see you till the next one. And basically the rules are, so it goes the Power 4 teams, the ACC, the SEC, the Big 10, and the Big 12. They are allowed up to 3 losses. So, last year, no 3-loss teams made the playoff except for Clemson, who got in with an automatic bid as the ACC champion. That still can happen. You can still get in with an automatic bid as a 3-loss, but it's very unlikely. And Clemson would only got in because they won that game. If they would have lost that game against SMU, no 3-loss teams would have made the playoff. So, well, maybe except for Alabama or somebody who got left out. But no 3-loss teams, pretty much. It can happen, but it's unlikely. So if you're 3 losses, really, unless you're in the Power 4 conferences, you're done. So unless you're in the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, or the Big 12, and really for those last 2, you even have less room of error than the Big 2, because everyone knows the Big Ten and the SEC are harder, and that the playoff committee always looks at those conferences with more prestige than the ACC and the Big 12. So those 2 conferences are going to get the benefit of the doubt no matter what. But just just so you know the rules here, the Big Ten, the Power 4 conferences, they get 3 losses, up to 3 losses. After that 4th loss, you're done. No matter what, you're done. 3 losses, you're basically done, but there's still a chance. And as we saw, not as we saw, but last year when I did this, I had South Carolina. They were done early with their 3rd loss, and we saw how they came back and made a run at the end, and they were still somewhat alive. So they almost broke the system last year, so you got to be careful with that. But 3 losses allotted for the best teams in the country. When it comes to the group of 5, you are really only allowed 1, but 2 losses, you can still be on there. We saw that last year with like a Tulane who had a couple losses, but they came against like Kansas State and like another good team. So, they were quality losses. But really the group of 5 doesn't get too much wiggle room because it is the group of 5. They are the weaker teams in college football. They have the weakest schedules, the weakest strength of records, the weakest everything. So those teams do not get much wiggle room. As we saw last year, Boise State was the representative out of the Mountain West, and they only had 1 loss, and it was a 3-point loss to Oregon, who went undefeated. It was the only undefeated team in college football. So basically an undefeated season for Boise State last year, and they were the team that got in. So not a lot of wiggle room, especially because the group of 5 only gets 1 team. You only get 1 team in the entire 12-team field. So it's not like the Big Ten or SEC where you're going to have at least 3 each. You know what I mean? You're going to have 3 each, maybe 4. Group of 5 is 1 team out of like 80. There's like 80 group of 5 teams, and only 1 can make the playoffs. So the odds are already very stacked against you. So that's why there's not a lot of wiggle room. 1 loss, you're already kind of on the brink of falling out. 2 losses, it really depends on who you lost to. If you lost to 2 bad teams, you're done as a group of 5. If you lost to Bama and Ohio State as a group of 5 and you won the rest of them, you're still in the conversation. So you see the difference there, but not a lot of wiggle room for them. 3 losses, you're done. Group of 5, you're done. So that's basically the requirements for that. Oh, and Notre Dame, they are their own thing. Notre Dame is basically a Power 4 school, so they're treated as such, but because Notre Dame is not in a conference championship game, they don't really get that benefit of the doubt like an SEC team would or a Big Ten team would, because they also have to play a conference championship game potentially and also go through a conference schedule. So Notre Dame, even though they're treated as such, Notre Dame really only gets 2. They only get 2 losses. Last year they had 1, and it was a really bad one, and they were able to overcome that by winning the rest of their games. But 2 losses, Notre Dame's on the brink because you don't play a conference championship game. You don't play a conference schedule. So who are you losing to, first of all? And second of all, is it enough to win an argument against a team that does have to go through that? So that's why Notre Dame has a shorter leash than a couple of those other teams. So Notre Dame only gets 2 losses, and it depends on who they lost to. If it's 1 bad loss out of those 2, they're probably done. And 3 losses, Notre Dame's done. So those are the requirements for each team when it comes to the playoff eliminator. Now, the playoff eliminator, it goes on throughout the season. We start off in week 1. We keep adding teams until we get to the end of the season, and there are only 12 teams left. And we will only know that 12 once the playoff committee tells us that 12, because last year there were still 14, 15 teams that were in the air when it came time for Selection Sunday, and that was Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina, the extra 3. So we really won't know the final 12 until the playoff committee tells us, but at the end of the season, we'll probably only be left with about 20, probably less than 20 teams. So this is how the playoff eliminator works, and it helps us to narrow down who's actually contenders as the season progresses. So here we go.